All right, y'all. So this first question wants to determine visually whether this function is even, odd, or neither. So remember, two ways you can check that. First way, if it's symmetric to the y-axis, it's even. If it's symmetric to the origin, it's odd. Also, you can see how many times the graph is touching the x-axis. And if you notice, this graph is touching the x-axis 2 times, which is the even number. It's also symmetric to the y-axis. If I fold it over the y-axis, it lands on itself. So y'all, since it's symmetric to the y-axis and it touches the x-axis an even number of times, this would be an even function. All right, number 2 deals with the translations. So they want to describe how the given function can be obtained from one of the basic graphs. So we're going to start with the graph of f of x equals blank. So since this graph has an exponent of 2 following them parentheses, the basic graph would be the x squared graph. And y'all, everybody will have an x squared graph on this one. So then we look at it says shifted blank 5 units. So the 5 is inside the parentheses. When the number's inside the parentheses, it's going to go left or right. Since this one's adding 5, it actually goes left 5 units. So remember, inside the parentheses is sort of opposite what you would think. But this is definitely going to go left 5 units. And then the +1 at the end, if you add, you go up. If you subtract, you go down. So since that's being added at the end, this is going to shift my graph up 1 unit. So then they want you to graph it. So I click on the enlarge graph. It pulls up our little graph. X squared graphs are the U-shape X squared tool. So you're going to click that and then click anywhere on your graph. It'll always put the graph right in the center. So since we went left 5, we're going to go to the horizontal shift. Remember, horizontal does left and right. And I'm going to put my horizontal at -5. And then remember, I had a +1 at the end. The +1 is the vertical shift. So I'm going to pull the vertical to a +1. So notice that move my graph left and up a little bit. So then you're going to save that and go to the next question. All right, describe how the graph of the function can be obtained from the basic graph, then graph the function. So starting with the graph of g of x equals the square root of x, then shift it blank, blank units. So that x -4 is up under that square root. So when the x -4 is under the square root like that, you treat it like it was in parentheses. So inside the parentheses, member is going to go left or right. Since this one's subtracting 4, it's actually going to go right. So once again, that's opposite what you think when it's inside the parentheses. And then it's going to go 4 units. So we're going to go right 4 units. So then they want you to pick which one of the graphs went right 4 units. So I'm going to try to zoom these in just a little bit. A looks like it went up. B looks like it went left. C looks like it went down. So let's see what D's doing to us. And if you notice, D went right. Because remember, the basic graphs always start in the center of the graph. So this one is the only one that went right. So I would click my D and go to my next. All right, one more of these, and then we'll move into finding zeros and stuff. In this one, we only had to tell what it does. We don't actually have to graph this one. So the way they start these out, they almost follow order of operations. They start inside the parentheses first. So you got that x minus 7 inside the parentheses. Since that 7 is being subtracted, it's going to move it right. So we're going to click the box. So I got a right 2, left 7, and right 7. So we're going right 7 units on that. Then we're going to reflect it across the blank. Well, y'all, the only axis we're reflecting across in this section is the x-axis. And then at the end, that +2 is going to move me up 2. So remember, the last number determines my up and down. Inside the parentheses determines my left or right. All right, I'm going to write this one down. This is our number 5. F of t equals t squared plus 8t plus 15. All right, so I'm going to go pad and work this one. So y'all, number 5, we're going to factor. So number 5 is quick by factoring. And they want me to find the zeros on this. So I got to get 2 answers because I got an x squared term there. But it's telling me I need 2 answers. So to factor this, we're going to bring this into parentheses. And we're going to have all this set equal to 0. So you're going to have a t squared or a w squared or an x squared in the front. Only way to get a t squared for me is to put a t in front of both these parentheses. So now I'm going to figure out what signs I'm going to have. This last number is a positive 15. Anytime the last number is positive, both of these factors here will have the same sign as that middle number. So since the 8 is positive, both of these will be positive like the 8. Now, if the last number is negative for you, you'll have 1 positive and 1 negative, okay? All right, y'all, so all we need are factors of 15 that'll add to 8. So factors of 15 would be 1 and 15, 3 and 5. So the only factors that'll add to 8 are my 3 and 5. So I'll put a 3 in and a 5. So it's factored now. So now to find my actual zeros, I take both of my factors and set them equal to 0. So basically, we're just changing the signs now because this one had a +3. We need to subtract 3 from both sides, get the t by itself, and I get t is a -3. The second one, I would subtract 5 from both sides and get t is a -5. All right, so let's go put that in MathLab. So up here, the zeros of the function are, all you got to do is put in your 2 numbers, -3, -5. Got my 2 numbers in, so now we'll go next. All right, let me write 6 down here. This is f of x equals 4x squared minus a x plus 2. All right, so the trick on number 6. Number 6 is not going to factor. Everybody's number 5 will factor, but number 6 will not factor. So this one does not factor. So that means to solve this one, we got to use the quadratic formula. So we're going to use our quadratic formula. Quadratic formula says x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. So for us, a is 4. B is a -1. Remember, if there's not a number in front of that variable, it is definitely a 1. And then C will be a +2. So I'm going to plug all my letters into my formula and see what we get. So we got negative times -1. So it's a negative B, which is -1, plus or minus a square root -1 squared minus 4 times A, which is 4, and C, which is 2. All that over 2 times A, which is 4. Alrighty, also now a -1 is going to make that a +1 plus or minus square root. -1 squared is a +1 minus 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. All over 2 times 4, which is 8. All right, y'all. So most of my work is now going to be underneath this little radical here. So I'm going to bring down my 1 plus or minus square root. 1 minus 32 gives me a -31 all over my 8. So y'all, next I would see if I could simplify the radical. So on the side here, I'm going to see what I can do with that negative square root of 31. So remember, the perfect squares so 4, 9, 16, 25, and 36. That's all I'm going to worry about because that's a 31 under there. But y'all, 31 does not divide by 4. 31 does not divide by 9. 31 does not divide by 16. Does not divide by 25. And everything else is getting too big. So the 31 is not going to simplify. But what we got to do, remember, is bring out that negative. So we need to break out that -1 from that radical. And remember, the square root of -1 is I. So this ends up as an I times the square root of 31. So I'm going to plug that in for the square root of -31 now. So I'm going to have 1 plus or minus I square root of 31 over 8. So if you notice, all we did here was bring out the negative as the I. This does not simplify further, but we got to write it as A plus BI. We got to separate the two fractions. So we must separate the two fractions so that I'm going to get x equals, the first fraction will be 1 divided by 8 plus or minus. So you can do I square root of 31 over 8, or you could do this as x equals 1 over 8 plus or minus square root of 31 over 8, and then put the I at the end. It'll take this either way. So y'all, the trick is on putting that thing in MathLab. So what I do is I'm going to hit the fraction bar for the first one and put my 1/8. Then I'm going to arrow out of that, use the plus or minus. Get my fraction again. I'm going to put the square root of 31 on top. On bottom will be the 8. And then I'm going to arrow right and put that I down here. Okay, but remember, you could do I square root of 31/8 either way, as long as the I is not under your radical, okay? All right, y'all, let's see what we got next. All right, so this one was getting us ready for zeros and x-intercepts. So I'm gonna make this graph a little larger. So first it wants to know the x-intercepts. The x-intercepts have to look like an ordered pair. So for the first x-intercept, I'm going to go for the point on the left side. That point looks like it's at -1, 0. So remember, for x-intercepts, the y values will be 0, okay? And then I'm going to start my parentheses for the second one. So the point on the right is sitting at 3, 0. So remember, x-intercepts have to look like pairs of ordered pairs, okay? Now the solutions are equal to the x values of those x-intercepts. So the first solution would be the -1 from my first pair, and then the +3 from the second point. So y'all, you would just throw your points in, throw those two solutions in, and then we hit next. Oh, so y'all's favorite problem. So let me write this down. This is number 8. So I'm just going to sort of draw what we got. We got a wall here. And you got a ladder leaning up on that wall. They tell me that foot of that ladder is 5 feet from the wall. So on the bottom, that's going to be 5 feet. Then they tell me the height the ladder reaches on the wall and the length of the ladder are consecutive integers. So y'all, let me go to my pad now and show you what I'm going to do. All right, so over here's my wall. And here's my ladder leaning up against the wall. They told me the foot of this ladder was 5 feet from this wall. So this side was 5 feet. Then they told me that the height my ladder reached on the wall and the length of this ladder are consecutive integers. That means if this height it reaches on the wall is x, then this ladder would be x plus 1. So consecutive integers means two numbers right in a row. So to go to one number to the next, we just add 1. All right, so y'all, now we're going to do the a squared plus b squared equals c squared. X plus 1 has to be the c because it's the side across from what we call the right triangle here, the right angle. So x plus 1 will be my c, and then I'll let 5 be a and x be b. It don't matter on these two sides, okay? The only side we're worried about that's picky is the x plus 1 side. So for a, I'm going to put 5. So I got 5 squared. B, I'm going to let be x. So that's going to be x squared. That's going to equal c, which is x plus 1 squared. All right, y'all. 5 squared is 25 plus x squared. So y'all, on the side here, I'm going to figure out x plus 1 squared. That'll be x plus 1 times x plus 1. So if we FOIL that, x times x is x squared. X times 1 is 1x. 1 times x is 1x plus 1 times 1 is 1. Add your like terms and you get an x squared plus 1 is 2x plus 1. That's what we're putting on the right side now. X squared plus 2x plus 1. And y'all, here's a little tidbit for you here. Everybody's going to have an x plus 1 squared here. So everybody should have an x squared plus 2x plus 1 at this point. The only difference is going to be this 5. Y'all's might not be 5 feet. Y'all's might be 7 feet, 3 feet, whatever. But that's going to be the only difference. We'll both have x squareds here, and we'll both have the x plus 1 squared on the right side. All right, so now we're going to solve this. We're going to move the x squareds to the same side. But y'all look at that. X squareds cancel on both sides. So all that's left for me is 25 equals the 2x plus 1. At this point, the only thing different for y'all will be the 25. We're all going to have a 2x plus 1 on this side, okay? All right, now solve this. So to solve this for the x, so I don't even have to factor this no more because the x squared terms went away. So all I got to do is solve it for the x. So I'm going to subtract 1. 25 minus 1 is 24, equal to my 2x. Divide both sides by 2. So I get 12 equal to my x. Now, y'all, the only thing this thing wants to know is, how long is this ladder? Well, if x is 12 right here, that's how high up on the wall the ladder reaches. I got to come over here and add 1 to my x. So I'm going to have 12 plus 1, which will actually give me 13 for my ladder. So on this one, do not stop when you have the x. You got to add 1 to that up here to actually get the ladder. So the ladder would be 13. So y'all, I'm going to go put in my ladder now. And we said that was 13. All right, y'all, let me make this bigger because all we got to do is look at this picture for this problem. Now notice, let me pull that down just a little bit to get that point there. So we're asking for the vertex. Well, y'all, the vertex is sitting in those parentheses right there. They're giving me the point at the bottom of that parabola. So they're giving me the vertex, and the vertex will be the ordered pair, which was what, a 3, -3, and then close my parentheses. The axis of symmetry is going to be x equals the x value of that, which was 3. So here's the thing on the axis of symmetry. Notice it says you gotta type an equation. So you gotta put that x equals 3 all there, okay? And then it wants to know what is the minimum or maximum value of the function. Well, that's equal to the y value, which is -3. So the x value gives me the axis of symmetry. The y value gives me the maximum or minimum amount. All right, y'all. So then we would click next. So this one is a true or false. And it's based off of the problems like 2, 3, and 4 were earlier, where we were translating them left and right and all that fun stuff. So this wants to know if the graph of h of x equals x minus 1 squared can be obtained by translating the graph of h of x equals x squared left 1 unit. So notice, they're attacking the x inside those parentheses by subtracting 1. Well, when we attack that x and subtract 1 inside the parentheses, it's not moving me left. It's actually going to move me right 1 unit. But y'all, they said it was going to go left 1 unit. So this statement is definitely false. Okay, they're trying to get y'all thinking that by subtracting, they're moving it left. But remember, if it's inside them parentheses and I subtract 1, I'm actually moving right, okay? And y'all, I'll tell you a trick. I'm going to show you how, if you don't remember, watch what I can do on my calculator. So I'm going to share my calculator just to show you. So if I was at y equals, and I just did the regular x squared graph, watch this. The x squared graph is right in the center of this graph, okay? Now, they said let's do x minus 1 squared. Whoops, let me backspace. So I was using my keyboard instead of my calculator. So x minus 1, close parentheses and square it. Watch what this graph does when I put graph. Notice this graph didn't move left, it actually moved right. So that would verify what we just said. Okay, but they said left, so it is definitely false. So like I said, if you got trouble on those, graph that thing on your y equals, okay? All right, what is this? Number 11. So let me write this problem down. F of x equals x squared plus 6x plus 8. So let's see what all they want me to get. They want me to get the vertex, max or min values. So max or min and value. The range. And let me move this out of my way a second. And find intervals on which is increasing and decreasing. All righty, so don't look like we got to actually graph this one, does it? So, all righty, so we're going to find the vertex first. So let me go to my pad. All right, so remember my vertex formula is negative b over 2a. That'll give me the x value. And then I find f of negative b over 2a, which means once I find that x value, I plug it into the function to get the y value. So y'all, I'm going to work on the vertex, and I'm going to start with that x value, which is negative b over 2a. So remember, for my problem, a is 1, b is 6, and c is 8. So we got negative times b, which is 6, over 2 times a, which is 1. So y'all, I'm going to get a negative 6 on top over positive 2, and then negative 6 divided by 2 gives me a negative 3. So my x is going to be negative 3. So remember, to get the y value, I'm going to plug that negative 3 back into this equation. So I got negative 3 squared plus 6 times negative 3 plus 8. All right, y'all, negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. 6 times negative 3 is a negative 18, and then plus 8. All right, so once we add these, we'll have our y value. So 9 minus 18 is negative 9. Negative 9 plus 8 is a negative 1. All right, so we'll put negative 3, comma, negative 1 in for our vertex. So now they want to know, is that a max or minimum? So to tell me if I got a max or minimum, I'm looking at the x squared term here. So since my a was a positive 1, this is going to be a minimum. So remember, this graph would be a U-shaped parabola. All right, the value of that minimum is equal to the y value of my vertex. So the minimum value will be a negative 1. All right, the range. So remember, if this is my vertex and it's negative 3, negative 1, my range starts from the smallest y value and goes upward. My smallest y value is a negative 1. So my range will start at negative 1, and it heads up, up, up until we say it's headed towards positive infinity. So if you got a minimum, it's going to start at that number and head to positive infinity. If you had a maximum would start at negative infinity and go up to that maximum point, okay? All righty, then they want to know increasing and decreasing. Increasing for me is the right side of this graph where it's going uphill. But remember, I got to look at the x value, and this is going uphill as I head to the right. So the x value it starts at is negative 3. So it's going to go from negative 3 as I head right towards positive infinity. Decreasing. Well, the left side of my graph is what's going downhill. So it's coming in from the left, and it decreases until I hit that x value of negative 3. So remember, on the range, you're focusing on the y values. On these intervals of increase and decreasing, you're focusing on the x value. So this graph comes in from the left until I hit that x value of negative 3. So we say it's coming in from negative infinity until it hits negative 3. So y'all really on this problem, once you get this vertex, you got all the numbers you need to finish this out, okay? So let's see, let's go see how they want that put in. All right, so it starts with the vertex, and the vertex we said was negative 3, comma, negative 1. All right. Then we said ours had a minimum. Since the x squared was positive, we had a minimum. So that would be a, and the minimum value was the y value of negative 1. Then it wants to know the range. Our range, so you got to hit this bracket. So get the bracket, and mine went from negative 1, comma, to infinity. And then infinity always gets a curvy parentheses. All right, then it says the function is increasing on, well, we said ours was increasing from negative 3 to positive infinity. And then close parentheses. And then it says, where's it decreasing? Well, our decreasing, we said, came in from negative infinity up to that -3. So on these parabolas, one will start at the number, go to infinity. The other one will start at -infinity and go to that number. Just depends on whether yours is going as a minimum or a maximum, okay? Alrighty, y'all, so we didn't have to graph that, and so we would hit next. All right, a toy rocket is shot vertically in the air from a launching pad 3 feet above the ground. Initial velocity 152 feet per second. The height in feet of the rocket above the ground at t seconds after launch is given by the function. So this is all I need. H of t equals -16t squared plus 152t plus 3. So all you need on this one is the actual formula here. So they want to know how long till a rocket reaches max height. And then what is the maximum height?
I can't see your paper.
Oh no, I was just reading it out and then I'm going to put it on my paper. So they want to know how long till it reaches max height and then what is the max height. So, all right, so they gave us this formula, but everybody's will be -16t squared. The only differences will be the 152 and the 3 for us, okay? So y'all to find max height and the time it takes to reach max height, I'm going to do my vertex formula, -b over 2a, and then f of -b over 2a. So the x value, which is the -b over 2a part, that's going to tell me how long it is. That's going to give me the time. The y value here, the function of -b over 2a, the y value is going to give me the height. Okay, so the time is given by the x value. The height of the rocket will be given by the y value. So y'all, let's see what we got. A for us is -16. B is going to be 152. And then C will be that +3. So now let's get our time, which is equal to the x value. So we're going to find -b over 2a. That'll equal negative times 152 over 2 times my a, which is -16. Alrighty, also top, I get a -152. Bottom, I'm going to get a -32. All right, y'all, so let me punch that on my calculator and see what that's going to give me. So I had -152, so -152 divided by -32. That's going to give me 4.75. Now remember, you should end up with a positive number on that because time is always positive. So the time it took my rocket to reach maximum height was 4.75. Now I got to find that height. So to find the height, I take the 4.75 and put it in for both of these t's. So I'm going to have -16 times 4.75 squared plus 152 times 4.75 plus 3. All right, y'all, so I'm just going to go plug that into my calculator and see what I get. Now remember, we're looking at maximum height, so that's got to be a positive number also. All right, y'all, so here we go. We had -16, so -16 parentheses 4.75 close parentheses and square that plus 152.
You got some errors in there.
Oh, what am I doing? Am I hitting the wrong stuff? Let me look.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, how did I get that? Okay, let me clear that. All right, y'all, here we go. -16. I'm going to watch my screen now. Parentheses 4.75 close parentheses and square that plus 152 times on parentheses 4.75 close parentheses plus my 3. Yeah, I'm having to punch my calculator on my keyboard and it's really touchy. All right, y'all, so we hit enter, we will get the maximum height of 364. All right, so all you got to do now, just go to your math lab and put in them 2 values. So we said it reached maximum height at 4.75. And then they already got the seconds there. And then the maximum height was, oh, what do we get? 364 feet. Okay, so just plug them in and then you're going to the next. Now you also let me write this one down, number 13 here. I got f of x equals a square root 2x plus 1. So remember, on the radicals for the domain, we take the part inside the radical, the 2x plus 1. So you're going to set 2x plus 1 has to be greater than or equal to 0. Now, I'm just going to solve this for the x. So I'm going to start by subtracting 1. I get my 2x, that cancels, greater than or equal to -1. And y'all, then we divide by 2. So it looks like my x is going to be greater than or equal to a -1/2. So I'm looking for which answer actually has x greater than or equal to a -1/2. Oh, and y'all, that's going to be A for me. B has a not equals. We don't need that on radicals. The only way I would have got a less than or equals is if I had to divide by negative member and flip it. And in D, you cannot pick D on a radical, okay? Because all real numbers will not work on these radicals. Negative numbers will make this thing imaginary. So it's going to be a number like, well, most of these will probably be like my A greater than or equal. But be careful if you have a negative number that you divide by, you do got to flip it, okay?
Can I go back to your paper for a second?
Uh-huh.
Okay, we're good.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
So let's see. So 14 and 15, we're looking at radical graphs. So let me go to Math Lab here. And let's go to... Now, y'all, this one, You can graph on the calculator, or you can remember the basic graphs. So I'm just going to make these a little bit bigger real quick. So this is like the square root basic graph, but I'm subtracting 8. So remember, that's like I'm subtracting 8 inside parentheses since it's all up under that radical. And if I subtract 8 when I'm attacking that x like that inside the parentheses, subtracting moves it right, adding would move it left. Well, this is subtracting 8, so it's going to move it right 8. And y'all, only one of my graphs even looks like it went to the right. And that would be A, right? A, the graph looks like it went right. B, the graph went left and flipped somehow. C, that graph went down 8. And then D, that graph went left 8. We needed the one that went right 8, and that would be our A. But remember, we can always graph that thing. So let me go to my calculator. I'm going to clear all this out. So I will go to y equals, and then I'm going to clear that. So the graph of radical, you would hit second in the x squared button to get the radical. Oh, and what was mine? X minus 8, I think it was. X minus 8 under my radical. Now, once I graph that, I'm going to see which one of the pictures I would pick. And y'all, the reason it don't look as detailed as the one they got, remember, my calculator's only going to 10 on my y-axis and my x-axis. But you can tell it went to the right. So now when you go to the picture, they're going by 20s. But if you notice, the only one that went to the right like that was A, okay?
Okay, which one did you press for graph when you got done putting it in the calculator?
So let me go back to my calculator. So I was at y equals like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the top button on the right that says graph, just hit that.
Oh, okay.
And then it'll just throw that graph up there real quick for you.
Mine didn't though.
Huh?
Mine didn't do it, said quick.
Oh, okay. Alrighty, y'all. So then we're gonna hit next. So this is the same thing. So I got g of x equals a square root 4x minus 8. So let's go graph that and see what we got. We got A, B, C, and D on this one. It'll never be C. It'll never be the straight line, okay? There's no way a radical can ever give you a straight line. So it's got to be A, B, or D. So let's go graph that in our calculator and see what we get. All right, so I'm going to y equals, and we're going to clear that one out. So now we hit second x squared to get our radical. And this time it has a 4x minus 8 under there. Now make sure that's all up under your radical. The 4x minus 8 all has to be under there. And y'all, then we're just going to hit graph.
Mine started saying quick. It's not, it says invalid error.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Go back to the y equals like I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
You see on top, plot 1, plot 2, and plot 3, are any of them highlighted?
Plot 1.
Plot 1 is highlighted. So what's happening is it's doing stat plot stuff. So watch what we're going to do. Come down here and hit the second button, and then the y equals. You see how I got plot 1, plot 2, plot 3, and all that fun stuff?
I'm looking for it. Okay, you said
Hit the blue button, second, and then the y equals.
Okay, I'm on there.
So if yours is saying stat plot 1 off, hit enter,
Mm-hmm.
and yours is blinking on now. So arrow to the right and put it on off and hit enter.
Mm-hmm.
Now just quit that screen, hit second mode to quit that screen. Now,
Okay.
now go to y equals, and the plots should all be off now.
Okay.
So nothing's highlighted, right?
No.
Okay, so now you got your graph in there, your square root of 4x minus 8.
Yes.
Let's hit graph. And now you should be getting a picture. Are we?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're fixed now, right?
Yes.
All righty. So now we need to go pick which picture matches that one. So mine's just going uphill to the right. So let's find one of these that looks like it's going uphill to the right. And the only one I can pick would be, so let me make these bigger. A starting on the wrong side. B, whoops, trying to make that larger. B looks like what I had that went uphill to the right. C is a straight line, that's not happening. And D is going the wrong direction. So the only one that matched my graph would be B. And then hit next. Now, y'all, let me tell you the truth on this one. There's no math on this one. I just want to know whether I'm going to pick that 3x equation, the x minus 8 equation, or the x squared equation. So they're telling. Oh, I didn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, is that not a question?
No.
Okay. So they're telling me the piecewise function is defined as shown to the right. And they want to know which of these expressions I should use to find f of -4.
X minus 8.
So let's see, f of -4. Yeah, because that middle one says, hey, if your -4 is less than or equal to the x, we use the middle equation, which is the x minus 8. Good job. Everybody with me on that, because I get a lot of people that actually miss this on my test. But you got to figure out what they're giving you, the f value, and they gave me a -4. And y'all, it can't be A because -4 is not less than -4. And it can't be the last one because -4 is not greater than or equal to 2. The only valid choice we could choose was that middle one. So good job. Okay, let me make this a little larger for us. So they're giving you all the points on here for your vertex. My vertex here is a 6.5, 2.25. So they want to know, is there a relative maximum or minimum? Well, it's a mountaintop, so it's definitely a relative maximum. Then be careful on this because they say the relative maximum occurs at what x value? Well, y'all, the x value there is what? 6.5. So you punch in 6.5. And it has a value of, the value is always equal to the y, which is 2.25. Then they say, hey, what interval is this increasing? Well, increasing is the part going uphill left to right. So y'all, that's the left side of your graph that's going uphill. That arrow on the line don't mean that's the direction. That just means it goes down forever and ever and ever. So what interval is it actually increasing? Any guesses? A, B, C, or D?
D.
Sounding like you're saying D as in
Yes.
delta.
Yeah.
That's the only one. Because remember, Increasing and decreasing intervals go off the x values. So since yours was going uphill from the left, it came in from negative infinity to that 6.5. So what about my decreasing? A, B, C, or D?
C.
C. C.
What are y'all saying? C is in
I
cat?
think there's two of us saying C. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so it's C is in cat would be perfect. So it increases from negative infinity to the 6.5, and then from 6.5 to infinity, it's decreasing. All right, now I think that's all I had to pick on that. And yeah, so then we would hit next. All righty, y'all. Let me write this one down real quick. They're giving us h of x equals. Now I get a lot of mistakes on this one, so I'm going to actually go through and see what we get on here. So it's negative 3x minus 17 if the x is less than negative 4. It equals 3 for negative 4 less than or equal to my x less than 3. It equals x plus 9 for any x's that are greater than or equal to 3. So they want us to find h of negative 8, h of a negative 3, h of a positive 3, and then h of a positive 6. All righty, so let's go work that out on the pad. All right, so negative 8. You got to determine if negative 8 is less than negative 4. If it's in between negative 4 and 3, or is it greater than 3? We all negative 8 is left of negative 4 on the number line, so it's definitely less than negative 4. So since negative 8 is less than negative 4, we use this equation, the first equation. We got negative 3 times our x, which is negative 8, minus 17. All right, negative 3 times negative 8 is a positive 24 minus 17. And then 24 minus 17 gives us a value of 7. So then you got to figure out, is negative 3 less than negative 4? No. Is negative 3 in between that negative 4 and a positive 3? Yes. So since negative 3 is in between negative 4 and positive 3, we use the second equation. Well, there's no variable in the second equation. It's just telling me that any number in between negative 4 and less than 3 equals 3. So by default, this equals 3, and we're done. So then you come to the h of 3. Well, 3 is not less than negative 4. 3 is not equal to a negative 4 and less than 3. So look at the third equation. 3 greater than or equal to 3. Well, 3 does equal 3, so it makes that true. So I would use the last equation, which is x plus 9. In place of my x, I'm going to put my 3. So I get 3 plus 9, which gives us 12. Now, every time I've seen this problem worked, the first one they ask you, first equation. The second one they ask you, second equation. The third and fourth ones both use the last equation. Because y'all 6 is greater than 3, so I would use the last equation. So that'd be 6 plus 9, which gives us 15. Y'all's are going to be the same order. First equation, second equation, both of these last ones will use the third equation, okay? All right, so then you got to put these in. So h of negative 8, we got a 7. H of negative 3, we got a positive 3. h of 3, we got 12. And then h of 6, we got 15. Punch those 4 numbers in, and then we're going to hit next. All right, y'all, the last two deal with that difference quotient. F of x plus h minus f of x all over h. So the first one they're giving me, f of x equals 10x plus 5. All right, so I'm going to go to my pad. So remember, the trick on this was finding f of x plus h. So you take your f of x and put an x plus h in for that x. So you're going to have 10 times x plus h plus 5. All right, remove these parentheses by distributing the 10. So 10 times x is a 10x. Plus 10 times h is a 10h, and then bring down your plus 5. So notice there's no like terms. So now I'm going to plug this f of x plus h in for that f of x plus h. I'll put the 10x plus 5 in for the f of x all over h. So y'all, here we go. 10x plus 10h plus 5 minus, so that's the f of x plus h we just found. F of x is the 10x plus 5, all of that over h. So here we go. Both of these cancel with both of these in the first parentheses. So the 10x cancels with the negative 10x. This positive 5 is going to cancel with this negative 5. Remember, at this point, all that's left are the h's. So y'all, I got a 10h all over h. So guess what? The h's cancel on that thing, and my final answer is 10. You'll notice on this one, whatever number's in front of that x is going to be the slope. This is a fancy slope formula. That's the y2 minus y1 stuff over the x2 minus x1 stuff.
I kind of like these ones though.
Huh?
I said I kind of like these ones though.
Because it's just another way to find them slopes. So when we get a 10 on that one, so let's see, we're going to go plug in our 10 on our math lab. All righty, so I'm gonna have to write that one down. We're doing the same thing, except this time my f of x is a little bigger. F of x is 9x squared plus a 2x plus a 4. All righty. So I'm going to find f of x plus h first. So that'll be 9 times x plus h squared plus 2 times x plus h plus 4. So remember, on this one, you got to start with this x plus h squared. So bring down to 9. So on the side, I need to figure out what x plus h squared is. Do y'all remember? So this one, we used it every time when y'all had an x plus h squared. That thing worked out into a x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. So y'all save that right there. Because when you get this x plus h squared, you're going to substitute that in every time. So your x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. Then I'm going to bring down the rest. 2 times the x plus h, and then my plus 4. So this one's a little longer, but that's because I got these x's going into 2 places, and this one's being squared, okay? So now you would distribute the 9 through these parentheses. So you're going to get a 9x squared. 9 times 2 gives me a 18hx. 9 times 1 gives me a 9h squared. Here we distribute the 2. So 2 times x is a positive 2x. 2 times h is a positive 2h. And y'all at the very end, bring down your 4. Sadly, no like terms. So no one should have any like terms in this. So we're going to plug all this into our formula. F of x plus h will be 9x squared plus the 18hx plus 9h squared plus my 2x plus my 2h plus 4, all minus our f of x, which was the 9x squared, plus 2x plus 4, all of that over our h. But y'all, it's about to shrink down because remember, all 3 of these are going to cancel with the counterpart over here. So the 9x squareds cancel. So that's got an h, that's got an h. So the 2x doesn't have an h, so the 2x's will cancel. So that's got an h, but then the 4 don't have an h, so the 4's cancel. 100% the second parenthesis cancels out every time. But y'all look, I got 3 things left. I got an 18hx plus I got a 9h squared plus I got a 2h all over h. So the question of the day, what's our final answer after we simplify that?
Mine's 18x plus 9h plus 2.
Perfect, because 1h cancels, making that 18x. 1h cancels in the middle, making that a 9h, and then the h's cancel on the last one, making that a 2. So y'all, we would put that in as our last answer. All right, y'all said 18x plus 9h plus 2. All right, y'all. So questions on that. So then remember just to submit that thing and be done with it, okay? All right, y'all. So any questions? Y'all's will be the same exact order, same type problems as mine. So use this. Get good on that review before you do that test, okay? Remember, they're exactly the same. So if I was doing my review and made less than a 70, I probably wouldn't take that test yet. I'd probably do that review again until I could get at least a 70 or better, okay? Then I would worry about that test.
I have a question about the final exam.
Yeah.
Just how many questions is it?
So my final exam is 25 questions. And we'll go over that thing pretty good before the final. Now, the one thing that's nice about the final versus these 4 chapter tests The final exam is all multiple choice. So A, B, C, D. So just pick an answer and keep going, okay? You don't have to try to figure out how to write these answers in and did they want parentheses or commas and all that fun stuff, okay? Usually I get the best scores on my final. So remember, if you bombed out one of my tests, that final exam score will replace one low test. So usually people's scores go up quite a bit at the end of the year when I replace tests and drop low homeworks and all that fun stuff. All right, y'all. So what I'll do, I'm gonna let y'all take your break. If you need any support today, come back after break and I'll go over any support questions y'all might have. If you don't need me anymore, I'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
See you tomorrow.
Okay, y'all have a good one.
Bye.
See you tomorrow. Thank you.